Welcome back to another edition of Breaking News. I am Nick Athen, not the Juice Kid. We appreciate the Juice Kid producing and putting this thing together for us as we go live with Mr. Hens Todd to discuss Chiefs, man, they're ponying up some money.
Blitz podcast where the real fans unite. Every touchdown scored, reignite the night. From tailgate chatter to post-game debate, we love our Chiefs, yes, never too late. So tune in live, don't miss the hype. Chiefs Blitz podcast, it's what we type. Yeah.
George Karlaftis, the latest to get a contract extension. We will talk about that. A 4-year, $93 million extension that includes $62 million in guaranteed dollars for Adam Schefter. Also, our friend Jordan Schultz had it. According to Albert Breer, there is a contingency in there that of that $62 million guarantee, 30 of it is in injury guarantees that can roll into full guarantees. So what does that mean? I think that means that the injury guarantees do not count against the cap until they're actually executed. It's a 4-year extension worth $22 million a year with incentives to get to 23.25 again for our friend Jordan Schultz with Schultz Report. And George Karlaftis is a rich man, former 2022 first-round draft pick, along with Trent McDuffie. We'll talk about that impact here in a minute. Mm-hmm. But for Karlaftis, I mean, based on the way the contract is structured, it'll be interesting to see what the cap hits are, but they're going to be spread out pretty well here. And so I think this was a really creative job in which Brett Veach was able to secure their best pass rusher, along with Chris Jones. They've got him obviously locked up for a few more years. And Karlaftis has just kind of come into his own. He's gotten better and better every year. And credit Tamba Hali for spending a lot of time with him in the offseason the last couple years working with him. But the agreement today, again, it's going to make him a rich man. $93 million extension, 62 in guarantees. I think this is good news for the Chiefs. We kind of talked about this. Props to Ricky. He was correct. I followed up. I found some people telling me the same thing, that he was a priority, because they thought this deal would be a much easier deal to put together than getting a deal with Trent McDuffie, which I think is going to be a little bit problematic here. But for George, again, ascending player. He's 24 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He'll be 25 this season. He's young. He's improved every year. He makes plays in the postseason. So this is a nice contract for George Karlaftis. He's one of those guys, Henson, we've talked about this before. He always indicated a desire to stay in Kansas City. He loves it here. He's got his home here. He appreciates the fact that, the city adopted him. Kind of the same sentiments that we heard for Trey Smith. And as Big Chief wrote, technically this means that Karlaftis is under contract for the next 6 years, because this is a 4-year extension. I think it's just going to go through the season 2030. I think I wrote in my article 2029, but I'll try to verify that a little bit here at some point. But, what do you think, Hens? I mean, we were a little surprised when the news came out right after Trey Smith signed, but in reality, it makes a lot of sense, because I think pass rushers are really hard to find.
Remember I said on Friday, and I asked you guys, I said, which one you rather keep? If you had to keep one of them, which one you rather keep? And I said, if I had to choose, because they've been doing good, they haven't shown that they will pay a cornerback yet to this date.
Not even close. And
I said I would keep, if I had to put my eggs in one basket, I'd probably keep George Karlaftis, because you pass rusher, you're gonna need more pass rusher. You got Felix on the other side, he's gonna be coming on this year. Then you got some other kids that they drafted in the draft as well. But I think this is a great deal for George and his family. Congratulations to the young man coming from Purdue, and also coming, Kansas City, and been drafted. I think he was drafted 31 in the draft.
I think it was the 30th pick that year. I think one team didn't have the 30 I can't remember. I think it was 31 actually.
One or two, but yeah, this is staying in for the year 30, 2030. And he'd be here to Kansas City Chiefs again, man. $93 million of new money for George Karlaftis, $32 million fully guaranteed at signing. That's a lot for a young man to be having. And also $22 million per year. 22 million per year. Yeah. So And also, you're looking at this, guys. Like, he been getting, him and Chris Jones work well together, right? And also, he been 10 sacks. He's only been trending, going up. And also, I think they're gonna get Trent McDuffie done as well, man.
I don't know about that.
I think so, because you got if you got your two cornerstones, Chris Jones, 2 years left, right?
I think it's from a productive standpoint. I think he can play 2, maybe 3 more years in Kansas City, but that's it. I don't think his knees will hold up past that. Now, that's no offense to Chris Jones. He's phenomenal. He plays hurt. He'll do whatever it takes to make the big plays at the end of the game or when a situation needs it. But at 30 years old as a pass rusher, it'd be one thing if he wasn't double and triple teamed all the time. If he had single coverage, then maybe he'd get a little bit more time than that. But I think he can play another 2 to 3 years. So this keeps Karlaftis in a Chiefs uniform until 2030. Thanks, Blake, for that update. That's a young pass rusher going to be in his 30s when it happens. So, I think this is just a great move. The contract is structured in a way in which it helps the Chiefs in the salary cap today, tomorrow, and in the future. And
also, George Karlaftis got, I really do think they're going to get Trent McDuffie done. Because
okay, why do you say that? When the fact that they have never. The only guy who's gotten the only cornerback in the Brett Veach era that's gotten more than a 1-year deal is Christian Fulton, the free agent that they signed this last year. Nobody else. Brashard Breeland got 1-year deals. Nothing.
Well, I think so because I think they love this kid, man. I think Spags, he's like a Nick Bolton to Spags, right?
Okay.
And if Spags have something to say about it, I think he want to keep these two guys together. George Karlaftis. Well, those 3 guys: Nick Bolton, George Karlaftis, and Trent McDuffie, right? Because you got your key pass rusher locked up. He's young.
Right.
You got your key middle linebacker locked up. He's young, and Nick Bolton. And then you got your cornerback and Trent McDuffie locked up as well, and he's young as well. So that's why I think they're gonna get it done. You know what I mean? Because they traded up to get him. Right, and I don't see them walking away. And plus they got the franchise. Who else is going to be used to the franchise tag next year?
Well, they executed the 5th-year option, and I think it's $13.5 million or something like that on his contract for next year. So in 2026, he's going to make a minimum of 13. So generally, this is a little early to get a Karlaftis deal done, in my opinion. But I think he was the easier contract to get. Now, I agree with you. I think he's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He doesn't have a history of being injured. He doesn't have any off the field issues. L'Jarius Sneed was, he had a problem with his knee, and now, we don't even know if he's going to play this year at all for the Tennessee Titans, and there's even talk that they may release him during training camp. So when you look at the way they value cornerbacks, and you've got to give Brett Veach props because he's drafted some really good cornerbacks, since 2022-23. He's got Watson. He picked McDuffie. They picked Noel. I mean, there are guys that are fitting into it. We talk about the safeties and how they're going to maneuver and use some of the guys in the secondary now. I think it's going to be hard to get it done if the agents are demanding that they get the Sauce Gardner kind of money. I don't think the Chiefs will play the Sauce Gardner money. I think they will be close, but I don't think their guarantees are going to be in that 109 to 130 million range. I just don't see it.
Do you think George Karlaftis was worth this contract?
I think he's worth this contract. The way it's structured, it's a 4-year extension from 2026. That's 27, 28, 29, 30 that he's going to earn a large chunk of that money. Now, some of this money he's going to get up front that's going to offset the salary cap for this year and next year as well before his money kicks in. So it's a really good deal. I'll be interested to see, when Aaron Wilson pulls out the contract numbers and we take a look at the cap hits and see. But this should actually potentially lower the Chiefs cap hit next year even further. So we'll have to see again how it's designed. But I think it's a smart signing. You get a guy who's early. You get a guy who has, grown in this defense. He's made big plays. He's increased his sack total. This will be a big motivator for him, and I think it's a big relief. I think it's a big relief for him and the organization. Again, this kind of came out of nowhere, Hanson. We were not expecting this. Everything that I was told was that they were going to work on Trent McDuffie before they were going to work on Karlaftis, and even some people was that. But
Ricky,
they didn't, and some people were telling me, "Well, I don't know if Karlaftis is
right." Ricky been right, so hey,
Ricky. Hey, props to Ricky, man. We kind of think we know who Ricky is, and if so, Ricky, you just keep sawing wood, brother. You're doing a great job.
Ricky was on it. Ricky was on the Trey Smith deal, Sauce Gardner deal. Now George Karlaftis. So now I think this is a good deal for him. You know what I mean? Also for the Kansas City Chiefs. You already got him. What it's time to a 4-year extension plus the 2 years that you was gonna.
Right.
He already had left on his.
And
contract.
if he gets sued in those 2 years, $30 million of that $62 million is guaranteed. So that's a pretty smart way in which to do a contract, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, let's get into some of these. Let's get to this one right here. Go ahead.
My good buddy Blake, Chiefs didn't pay cornerbacks because none of them are as good or reliable or productive and consistent as McDuffie. Listen, I'm not arguing with that whatsoever. He has been next to Snead, when he was healthy. The two best corners Kansas City's had. I'd probably put Jalen Watson in there around third. We don't know what Christian Fulton can do yet. We have no idea what he's going to be or not be. But his deal is pretty friendly cap hit as far as after this year goes. So, do we even have a cornerback that we can really trust, according to Gary Newkirk? Gary, yeah, I think we do. I think Jalen Watson is a top 10, maybe top 12 cornerback in the NFL. I think he deserves a nice little payday, maybe kind of somewhere around Nick Bolton money. I think would be a fair price for him based on his talent and the fact that he was a 7th rounder. I think that's a good number. McDuffie gets more accolades, so it's going to be a little tougher. So I think you could definitely trust him. Christian Fulton spent a lot of time injured last year, and I think he's looking for a comeback season. He didn't have a good year with Tennessee. He played 4 years he played with the Chargers before playing at Tennessee, and I think that he's definitely a good fit for the Chiefs. And of course, the youngster from Cal, I'm very high on him. I think he's going to be a terrific player for the Chiefs. Big Chief, Veach is a genius for doing Georgia now. The list of edges that needs to get paid next year is long. He beat the curve, and his payday is going to look like a massive discount next offseason. Big Chief, you're spot on. He signed him a year early, I think, and they got great value. Of course, Karlaftis had to have the willingness to want to do a deal like this and structure it that way. So I think, that's an important factor too. The two sides wanted to get a deal done. They were ready to make a deal, and they were willing to work within the constraints of the Chiefs and their continued effort to build the roster and to create, significant cap space to keep the team together. Blake, again, Chiefs can add $24 million to $25 a year over 6 years to get it done. Speaking of Trent McDuffie, that is the average that Sauce got. But remember, Sauce's contract is inflated because it included the $130 million included years 4 and 5, kind of like with Karlaftis. Karlaftis' number is a pure extension, and they didn't tack on the money he's earning in 2024 and 25 to the total value of the deal. So it's my understanding it's going to kind of really be stretched out over 6 seasons.